everyone, and welcome to Flow Kanpur's event, Candid Conversation with Tahira Kashyap Khurana. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I'm very happy to have you all here. So, let me begin by introducing you all to Tahira, who wears not one but many hats. Tahira is a writer, a filmmaker, a theater director, a professor, a mother, my favorite, and unapologetic Twitterati for her display of self love on Twitter and Instagram. But today we are here to talk about Tahira, the author. Tahira is a prolific writer, and we are here to discuss her latest publication, 12 Commandments of Being a Woman. What I personally love is that they are very real life principles which are fun, humorous, light-hearted, without being very prescriptive in nature. So, welcome, Tahira. And I would also like to welcome and invite Mrs. Deepshika Kumar, the founder and managing partner at Speakin. Speakin is India's largest network of experts delivering business learning content online and offline. Thank you, Deepshika, for making this happen. Over to you now.
Thank you so much, Chandrika. Such a lovely experience being here with all of you. And thank you, Aarti in particular, for giving us an opportunity to be a part of this beautiful event. Let me just quickly start off. You've already talked about the book, Chandrika, but I'll quickly, as I've been mandated to do, reintroduce Tahira and then move on to bringing on both Tahira and Aarti ji to start the conversation today. Tahira, as Chandrika mentioned, Tahira Kashyap Khurana is a writer and filmmaker based in Mumbai. She's the author of 3 books and has directed 2 acclaimed short films, Pinny and Toffee. She's the author of 12 Commandments of Being a Woman, which is why we are here today, a title which has been admired by many, including Shah Rukh Khan, Twinkle Khanna, Varun Dhawan, Ekta Kapoor, and some of those that you just heard today. She's previously co-authored the book Cracking the Code with her husband, Ayushmann Khurana. At the same moment, may I now call upon Aarti ji to please come forward together with Tahira. And Aarti, I think all of you know, I don't think that I need to really do any formal introduction here. She is a mentor to many, many, many women all over the world, me included, and the Chief Investment Officer at DBR Ventures and also the program head at the Harvard Global Women. So thank you, Chandrika. Thank you, Aarti ji. And thank you, Tahira, for coming together on the Speakin and Flow platform. Over to you. The evening is yours.
Great. Thank you, Deepshika. That was extremely generous of you to kind of give that warm introduction. I think we're just going to wait a couple of minutes. Okay, Tahira is here. We can start. I'm just going to make Tahira the co-host. Super. Beginning. A very good evening, everyone. And a very, very warm welcome, Tahira, and to all our Flow members joining us from 17 chapters all over India. Being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. This year, all of us, young or old, man or woman, has been challenged beyond our imagination. I couldn't have imagined a more apt theme for the year 2021, the theme for Flow Kanpur, which is Rise, because I strongly believe that each one of us here today has the inner strength to overcome every obstacle, to rise above every challenge, and not just survive, but thrive. Over the last few months, with the support of all you Flow members, we've managed to add so much learning and value in our lives through workshops and events. We've managed to reach out to those less fortunate and not only help them survive, but also create sustainable livelihood options for them. And we will continue to break barriers and navigate through the insurmountables. Talking about breaking barriers and navigating the difficulties, today we have amongst us a feisty woman of substance who's multi-talented and versatile and has hula hooped her way through amateur theater, college teaching, radio jockeying, and finally has found her fulcrum in authoring books and directing films. It gives me immense pleasure to warmly welcome the woman of the hour, Tahira Kashyap Khurana, with a press hot memoir, The 12 Commandments of Being a Woman, under her belt. An author, a director, and also a cancer gladiator whose armor the reprehensible disease has not managed to make a dent into. I, in my own way, am trying to juggle a few things in a day, and I know how difficult it is to rise to every occasion with fearless dignity as you have, Tahira. I've been following your life and feel driven by the courage and conviction you have shown in yourself. Your attitude that if one has to see the rainbow, one has to put up with the rain, washes well with me. I hope after you are done with your talk with us, we all feel like heroines of our life and not the victims. Once again, a very, very warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aarti. I need all the warmth since it's very cold here in Chandigarh. I'm in Chandigarh. I need all the warmth and love right now. It's so lovely to be here and to be among such wonderful women. Thank you. Thank you for this lovely, lovely introduction. And yeah, go ahead, shoot.
Super. So I'll not waste any more time and I'll start off with, the first question. This will be a Q&A based session in between me and my co-moderator Chandrika. So at the outset, let me start by praising you for being able to get something off the ground, even as the frenzied world was going into an unplanned lockdown. You managed to write an entire book in this COVID time. What made you stay inspired through this dreaded lockdown? I can only assume that it's normal to kind of feel more demotivated and like mind boggled where all of us are cooped inside our homes.
That's true. That's precisely what you said. Cooped up inside our homes, all of us. So instead of killing each other, it's better to write a book. All of us sharing the space. We have all never been into each other's faces 24/7. So I quite love my family members. I didn't want to stab them, and neither did I want them to do that to me. So I was like, okay, fine, let's productively use our time. And yeah, jokes apart, yeah. It's something which goes with the basic premise of my being, which is to add value and to constantly churn value given whatever situation you are in. And so when the lockdown happened, I knew that I'm not going to having no mission and having no goal can drive anyone insane. Anyone can be sort of the life state dips when you have nothing to look forward to. And so I had determined that, along with spending quality time with my folks at home, I'm also going to sort of take this opportunity to do something, to learn something, and to churn out something. And that's where I started with the lockdown tales, narrating stories on my social media, which got a lot of love. And then thereafter, Chicky, out of the blue, I think it's what you send into the environment, into the universe. So I really had a strong intention of just doing something, of adding value. And then she came into being and she was like, let's collaborate. And that's the publisher of Juggernaut. And our conversation started flowing, and one thing led to the other, and there I was with the book. So I think challenges is what inspires me, and I'm sure it inspires all of us also. It's because during a challenging time is when you can, crack open the place where you can actually do a whole lot of new things which you haven't been able to do before. So yeah, and the fact
How,
that I didn't want to kill my folks at home.
how rightly said, and we're so glad that you sent it out into the universe for you to write this book and we get to read this wonderful compilation of your commandments.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope some of you might have read or will read.
Yeah, we did read your book, Tahira. And my next question to you, hi. So my next question to you is your self-deprecating style of writing is extremely funny and it makes your stories very relatable. Is this how you've always been? Like, do you reckon this bear it all style of writing is a result of your evolved self, or is this how you've always been?
I have been a goofball for most part of my life, and I continuing doing that. Doing that, I still am. But somewhere in between, I think how life turns around, how you get inspired in a not in a positive way by what is being thrown at you, the concept of beauty or the concept of being perfect. And when you don't think into your head and you don't match up to the standards, you have your own conspiracy theories coming in, and that's where your ambitions or your true self is clouded by self-doubt, where you always doubting yourself. So yes, I have gone through that phase. But somewhere in deep within, I was always this goofball. So in my very close circuit, in my where I used to feel comfortable, I used to project, not project, but be myself. But the moment another person would come in, I would just start doubting कि अरे ये मेरे बारे में ये सोच रहा होगा, always that was in my head, and I don't know why. किसी को नहीं पड़ी थी मेरे बारे में, but it was only in my head where I thought, how will people think about me? What will they think about me? And that sort of clouded. And so that took a backseat publicly. But yes, I have definitely evolved as a person in the past couple of years. And that's also before my health ordeal, and right quite before that. And I'm just so glad that evolution and self-awareness started kicking in, and which is why my health challenge wasn't as daunting as it is by the virtue of its definition. But yes, being evolved has certainly made me be comfortable with myself 24/7. So if I was a goofball in my room, today I'm a goofball everywhere. So that's the kind of sense of humor I've always had. But and I've extended that part of my personality into the writing of 12 Commandments of Being a Woman. And I'm so glad you liked it. Thank you.
Yes, it's very visible. And I love the idea that you've broken out of these conspiracy theories. I love how you coined that term, building your.
Yeah. Each one of us has, no? We all have these
I
things
do.
in our head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. As you speak about self-doubt, Tyra, it kind of brings me to my next question. Body image dissatisfaction is so widely prevalent in our society that it's almost become a way of life, right? In fact, your first commandment in your book is don't wait for your fairy tale from dusk to dawn. An ugly duckling can take forever to become a swan, which kind of
Yeah.
hints at you battling body image issues for a good part of your life. Like you said, you always had that self-doubt at the back of your mind. Looking back,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to your teen self? We have a lot of mothers of two tweens and teens here today who could learn about inculcating a positive body image in our children, like from you.
Yeah, I really feel from the parents' perspective or from the kids' perspective, because I feel I'm dabbling between the two worlds. But if it's from the kids' perspective, and if I'm supposed to tell myself, I would certainly tell myself to have a lot of faith in myself, and not let anybody's opinion about me cloud my own capabilities or my own image of myself, how I see myself, or how I dream for myself. I can't let anybody's doubt cloud that, because their thinking is also limited. I just want to tell that to my younger self, and also to tell her not to be scared to dream and to dream big. And that's what I would try to tell every teenager, every woman, every person, that you have the right, and it's completely your right to dream at any stage of your life, and nobody should be allowed to tell you that otherwise. So that, and to the parents, if they are struggling with teens having body issues, or they feel that they're just getting into a closet and they're not speaking to them, and they're not, I just feel love and dialogue can achieve a whole lot. As much as we think it's frivolous, just talking 20 minutes more to your kid, I might as well do something. I might as well take her to a class, and she might as well become the best ballet dancer. I would say invest those 20 minutes into just having a coffee with your daughter or your son, or just sit down and have a conversation without an agenda of wanting your child to be the best wherever she or he is. I think that is always there. कि हमने time spend करना है, इसको तो best बनाना है हमें. And even if you're not overtly saying, kids are a very unpredictable species, and they're very, very intelligent. So they feed off on your energy. They know that this is your ulterior motive inside your head. The reason why you're talking and having this conversation is because by the end of it, you're going to come to the marks, or you're going to come onto the performance. So really, in your heart, just have no agenda, and have the doors open for a dialogue and communication, so that when the day comes, the child is in a perplex, it doesn't know what is right or wrong, he or she has you to go to, because they know that you're not going to judge whatsoever. So I feel conversations and dialogues are very, 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 very important and crucial.
How rightly said. I have a 11-year-old myself, and I can totally relate to how they feed off your energy. So it's very important that in our hearts, we feel that way before we try and communicate the same to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true.
So, Tahira, my next question to you is: you've played several roles since you tied the knot with Ayushman. Why, in your book, you mentioned that your days were predominantly consumed by being the perfect mother, the perfect wife, and your nights were defined by sobs and spiraling feelings of loneliness, which was in stark contrast to your adventures on Gedi Route in Chandigarh. So, I'm from Chandigarh too, so I can relate to that. So can you give us
Wow.
a sneak peek into can you give us a sneak peek into your turmoil mind in those days and an insight into what you were feeling, what you were going through?
You know, every person goes through various life states. So I mean to say, if a person is enjoying or going through or having a sense of humor about the Gedi route, which is just the boys following the girls and all of that, it doesn't mean that the person cannot be unhappy, or the other way around. You can be all of it and yet have a low life state. But the Gedi route part was in my 20s, and but later on is when I got married and when I had kids. Right before that, that little bit of sinking feeling had started. And yeah, I had everything. If somebody was to say, there's nothing wrong with your life, and what kind of pseudo struggle is this? You have got everything going in for you. You have a lovely home, you have a stable job, everything is good. But what do you do if your struggles are internal? Is it to say that these internal mental struggles are any less consequential than a apparent secular one, in terms of if there's a financial crisis, or there's a marriage problem, or there's this, I feel internal or mental disconnect, or the feeling of sadness and depression is equally consuming and equally important and equally difficult to fight. So I wish I had sought medical help. I wish I had, so maybe the struggle would have lessened, or I wouldn't have dipped too down, with every passing year. So yes, I started leading a dual life. I was very happy by the day, because um, my kids are looking up to me for everything, and I didn't want to really come across as a loser mom. And so, which is why I projected to be this very happy, funny woman, and really inspiring my kids to do well. But the moment they would sleep, I would sleep myself. I would cry myself to sleep. And this continued till a long time. And in fact, I did not find anything abnormal about it. We all know, if we cry for 5 minutes also, our jaws start hurting, and you can't cry beyond a point of time. And I was crying for hours and hours, and I used to get anxiety attacks. And this carried on till the time I came across a beautiful philosophy, and that sort of completely changed things for me. But I really wished I had seek medical help and really taken my problems. And I should not have felt that I'm in this alone. But the fact that I felt that I'm in this alone goes also on to show the lack of communication, lack of conversations about this, which is why it's very important to talk, to normalize it, so a person doesn't feel that there is taboo or stigma associated with probably going to a shrink or going for medical help. So yeah, which is why I started talking about it. And that was the dilemma, but I fought it. And yeah, I'm here with you all today.
I'm glad you brought that up, and yeah, about breaking the stigma around it, getting it out the closet. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
Seriously, Tyra, I think, when accomplished women like you speak so openly and so candidly about your struggles, and about how you could not seek professional help with your needling depression, is what gives confidence to a lot of women out there to kind of come out. I have a small follow-up question on that. Now that we're on this issue of mental health, when do you think ideally kind of a person should stop brushing the anxiety under the carpet and ask for help? Do you feel that there's a trigger point, or can you help out? Maybe there are people listening in who are dealing with this, or having anxiety attacks or something.
To begin with, it's not normal to perpetually feel sad or low. And I mean, so all of us do feel defeated at some point of time. Challenges do get the better of us. But if it's a lingering feeling and it's just there and it's become a part of your personality and part of something that you are on a daily basis, I don't think that's a correct route. Since I didn't seek medical help, I do not know the protocols. I would not, and since I'm not a medical professional, I would not know how to tell you when to get yourselves checked or not. What I've experienced is being human and faltering and sort of failing as a human, and I can share that experience with you. I wish I had not extended my period of feeling sad for about 10 years.
Great. Thank you.
I, uh, I ended up having, sorry.
Sorry, I think we're breaking connection here,
Okay.
Taira. We're not
So I oh wait, let me just switch. Wait, I'm making a switch.
Yeah, sure. I think we're just 2 minutes delayed since Tyra is just making a switch to see her a better connection.
Is this better? Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you. Yeah, now we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your video is still a little hazy, but we can hear you clearly.
Oh, was it hazy before too?
Slightly, yes.
Oh, sorry, guys. This is the best we got. uh, yeah, you can pick up my book and know what I look like in caricature because my image is there. Just a sad one. So no, I don't know where did you lose me, but is what I'm trying to tell that one should not prolong. Just one should not sit over it. Anything that doesn't feel it's out of the ordinary or doesn't feel normal, one should not sit on it, whether that's a physical symptom or a mental symptom. Like I said, I am not a medical professional, so I would not know when to sort of go and seek. But what I have experienced is something human and failing and being victorious, and both of them, these are all emotions that are linked to being human. So I did fail at some point of time, and I can only share that uh, don't live with the feeling of being undefeated for a very long period of time. If such a thing is happening, if your heart is racing without any reason or with a reason, I think it's always good to have a conversation with someone who probably is in a better space to guide you. Else, one should always seek medical help. Yeah. So
Super.
that's
Thank
that.
you. Very well said, Tyra. And thank you for the courage to kind of come out and say this, out loud. Before we move on to my next question, I wanted to invite my co-moderator, Chandrika, she has a story to share with you. She's also from Chandigarh. And she
Okay.
has a very interesting story to share with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So in your book, you talked about dealing with body image issues, and that just got me thinking. And I wanted to add in here that back in 2008, even I used to go to Kiran's classes once in the evening to work out. And I remember doing the trampoline class right next to you, standing right by the mirror. And I was a teenager at that time, and as a teenager I was suffering from anxiety and issues of my own, navigating puberty. So while you were this tall fit person next to me, I had bouts of insecurity of myself, about myself while stepping in the class. But after
Oh,
reading so yeah, but after reading what you were feeling, what you were going through at that point, and you were going through body image issues of your own with excessive working out and dieting or running at the lake, I realized that women of all shapes and sizes could sometimes hold such harsh opinions of themselves. We don't view ourselves with the same lens of kindness that we view others. We have a much harsher view of ourselves. So that's when I realized you and I were looking in the same mirror, but we were seeing totally different things.
Oh my
And
God, that's so deep. Wow. Oh my God, that's so deep. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Wow.
I would say that this was my key takeaway from your book, that, we should view ourselves more kindly. So
Yeah.
we could call it the 14th commandment, maybe, so to speak.
For sure. We call it the Chandrika's commandment. Why the
Sure.
14? Name it. Own it. There's so much more power to you, yeah, Chandrika. Thank you so much for sharing. And imagine at that point of time, both of us in our own worlds are thinking how perfect other people are, and in our own heads we are screwed up. Sorry, I'm using the word screwed up on this platform, but it so was.
Yeah.
But and you're right, we need to be really we need to be kind towards ourselves, and we really don't need to kill ourselves over becoming something that we aren't. We can really have a beautiful life being ourselves. So yeah.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah.
That was a beautiful story, Chandrika, and I love the part about like let's look at ourselves with the same kindness that we look others at. So, um,
Yeah.
Ida, my next question is: do you think your faith, like you follow Buddhism, you've written about it in the book as well, played a significant role in creating this Tahira 2.0? Can we talk a little bit more about the importance of the teachings of this faith and how it has enhanced your life and it continues to do so?
Yeah, 120%. It's this practice, man. So it's a lot of people say that at times battling cancer, it can be really, it's an eye opener. Things change. You'll start looking at life with a different perspective. I'm just so glad I started looking at life from a different perspective much before cancer happened. Is why the perspective which I had towards that was a positive one rather than a destructive, self-destructive, and a grudging one. So yeah, this is where I was telling you I was deep, going down deep down. And this lovely friend of mine, she tried to introduce me to the practice 10 years back, and I started saying, yaar mujhe zarurat nahi, tujhe zarurat hai. You go chant yourself, I am very happy. And 10 years after, I was the one telling her कि बहन बता दे क्या करूं मैं. Because I was like, let me just try this one last option before just calling it quits, and before saying giving up on myself completely. And so when I started practicing, I had a lot of course, inhibitions. I was very critical about it. I had my own questions, and I found my own way. And the more I progressed in the practice, the more awareness set in. And that truly was transformational, because here was a practice which was telling me that you're not a bystander in your drama of life. You're an active participant. You're the hero of your own life, and you got to hold the reins of your life in your hands, and you have the power to change your destiny. And what is destiny? It's a result of all the causes that you create in your present. Just be aware of what kind of causes you're creating right now, and that's going to have the effect. The fact is, wherever we are, in whatever situation we are, whether it's a positive one, good, negative, challenging, it's a result of all that we have done in the past. And I'm a strong believer of karma, of cause and effect. And if you go on to see, that's how earth revolves. That's how nature, how a flower blooms, how a day turns into night, how rotations and revolutions happen, how seasons change. Everything is a how the Newton's law happens, how the gravity, everything is a result of cause and effect. So we are a product of our own um, circumstances, and our circumstances are a result of all the causes that we have created. So the good part, I'm just cutting the entire thing short and not trying to sound too philosophical and confused, but to cut the entire thing into a small thing is, it told me, the practice told me that it's not too late to dream. It's not too late to grow and become a better version of yourself. And all that you need to do is have hope and work towards it, and you will achieve what you want to achieve. So here was a third person, someone who's not from my area of existence, telling me and pinning their hopes on me, and telling me that I can already see you having a beautiful, victorious life. And that really was transformational for me. Somebody having that hope from me, somebody really pinning their hopes on me. It was beautiful. And you know the reason why we are born is to be happy. It's a very simple statement. But when I was told this statement that, you're born to be happy, it sounded very alien to me. I was like, hey, main khush, really? Because I was not used to being happy. And suddenly, that's how kids live. If you see how children live, they're very happy every day. They faced a challenge, they cry, and they go back to being them, the happy selves, because that's our inherent nature. That's a truest form of nature. We are born to be happy. Anything away from that, there's a lot of dissociation happening. So to be told that I'm born to be happy and the power to become happy resides within me, it was very, very empowering. And then there was no looking back. I grew in faith, I grew in practice, and I also expanded in life as well. I picked up most of the projects that I've done right now in these last 4 years. Uh, that's because the self doubts had all gone, or if I've not said not all gone, at least pushed down by my life state, which was about determination and conviction and having faith in myself. So the days when I don't have a strong life force, these self doubts again come up. But then again, it's a constant battle. So yeah, to know that you're not going to be defeated, and you to know that you have a choice that you can make between either begrudging a challenging situation or determining yet again that I am not going to be defeated. I think most of us, we don't know whether we have this choice. At least I didn't know. And so for me, I always used to go the begrudging and the complaining and the sob me and the victim space. The day I came to know I do have a choice, it's truly empowering. So I can go on and on about the practice. This is what it did for me. So yeah.
It's so wonderful to hear the kind of passion you have behind this. And like, I think it's so beautiful what you said, that it's never too late to dream, to hope, and to get what we want. I think we all should kind of take this and tie it around our thoughts,
Yeah.
So, Tahira, I want to touch upon the health ordeal a little bit. End of 2018, you were diagnosed with stage 0 cancer. So,
Right.
how was 2018 panning out to be till November that year? And do you think post the ordeal, did you feel liberated from something you were trapped in?
All the liberation and all that happened much before cancer. Yeah, like I said, I was okay. I was very liberated. I was like, now I'm shedding this skin and this layer of pretense of trying to be perfect and trying to fit into a mold that you actually saw me in, Chandrika. To be a size 6 or a size 8 when I'm 5'8.5", it's practically impossible. And even if it's possible, I was killing myself to be there and to be a certain person. And I had let go of that much before cancer happened. And so when cancer happened, and so did a lot of physical transformations also, I just embraced it, yeah, because this is what I was training for. And which is why I keep on saying thank you, God, and thank you, universe, that I was introduced to a philosophy where it was so empowering and so enriching that it told me that the only reason challenges happen to you in your life is for you to bounce on it, treat it as a springboard, and jump onto bigger and higher heights and become a better version of yourself. You can only expand during a challenging time. I mean, so when the going is good, nobody wants to budge, nobody wants to move an inch. The only time that you can grow as a person is during a testing time. And so if a testing time comes in our lives, we should really, really have a lot of gratitude, embrace the challenge, because it's only come for you to grow and for you to fly. And this is what I was training for, and all these 4 years. And so when cancer happened, when it happened, I was like, okay, here is my chance, here's my golden opportunity to do something which I've never done before, and it's going to teach me something, not take away anything. And I was determined. With that determination, I went with for my each of my chemotherapy sessions. That's with that sort of an attitude I went for my surgery. So there is not an iota of pretense. If I'm sounding crazy and happy on my social media, genuinely, if you ask somebody from my in immediate environment, they did term me as cuckoo, as like, why are you behaving as if it's a celebration? But that's how I felt. That's how I genuinely, truly felt. But again, it comes from a practice of being happy and feeling grateful on rest of the days. You suddenly can't be positive, and you suddenly can't have uh, transform and feel liberated one single day. In fact, it can take you down. A challenge like this can take you down, further down. But because I was practicing, um, being happy or having gratitude on a daily basis and growing and evolving as a person, this challenge I just embraced. And yeah, so that
Yeah,
was it.
there was like a wave of like self-love. Even I saw on your Instagram, on your Twitter,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was very inspiring.
I think I went berserk. I really went cuckoo. Now I just think like, what was I thinking? क्या ही कर रही थी मैं? But I genuinely, I don't know, my eyes were clouded. I don't know what was happening. But when I went bald, I was like, oh my God, so sexy. And I clicked a series of selfies अकेले ही घर पे बैठ के. I was clicking my pictures and I was posting on social media. But before that, I sent it to my husband, who was like, his first reaction was like, wow, you do look hot. I think it's how you feel about yourself is how the people start viewing you, at least in my head. And I want to feel happy with whatever I was, and I just wanted to cherish life.
Yeah, it
Um,
really was shining through, I would say.
yeah, my head practically was shining.
Wow, what a strong spirited person you are, Tyra. Like, I mean, seriously, your like cuckoo-ness is like contagious. Like we had some messages from members as well who were like, what a true spirited person you are. Uh, we've also had another cancer warrior, like, a person from the film fraternity a few weeks back with us who shared her experiences, Lisa Ray. And she said
Yeah.
she, does not believe in qualifying anything to be good or bad, and cancer made her kind of step back in her career and observe first the circumstances and then roll out the instances.
Yeah.
So, what has been your biggest takeaway from your journey of being a cancer warrior?
Oh, it's very beautiful, like what she said. But and I think every experience is very individual. You all have your own takeaways. But like I just told you in the previous month, my takeaway was that this challenge has come to not take away anything. Play of words. But yeah, so it's come to give me something. It's come to teach me something which otherwise I would not have learned. And also I took it upon myself as that perhaps it's my mission to spread awareness about early breast cancer detection. I mean to say, I was 35 when I had this, and practically the first time I went to the doctor, he sent me back. He was like, you don't, it's okay, you can come after 2-3 months. And I mean, so I was not in the criteria and the category of having of remotely having breast cancer. In fact, when I went, I was under a 2% chance of contracting the disease. And I went gradually, I went up with every test. I went up to a 30, to a 70, to a 95% chance of contracting the disease when I got my biopsy done. So, I took it upon myself as a mission that, no matter, it doesn't, in our heads, we always feel, such a thing cannot happen to me. And that's how I felt too. In fact, it was not there in my head. I was practically pushed by my best friend and my husband to go get myself checked because of few symptoms I had. And the first symptom that I had was I rejoiced like a fool. My one breast was heavy, and I was like, "Hey, size बढ़ रहा hai," and I was crazy person who was rejoicing having big breasts, and I was really waiting for the other one to catch up, but it did not. And so then there was a secretion that started coming, and that's when I was pushed. I really wish I had that awareness set in from the word go. Like something is not feeling good, just go get yourself tested. Breasts can't grow at the age of 35. But delusional and stupid that I was, I didn't want anybody else to go through that stupidity. And it's not always that I wanted to share my struggle or whatever my challenge on social media, but my rounds with the doctors and hospitals, it made me realize that I come from a very privileged place where there is a lot of acceptance and there is no taboo and stigma associated with breast cancer or mastectomy or reconstruction or whatsoever. But there are a lot of women who are struggling with a whole lot. To begin with, they don't get themselves tested because of this concept of other men touching your breasts, your female's breast. That's not allowed. So a woman would rather sit on her symptoms and succumb rather than getting herself tested, even though she knows that there's something going wrong. And I found that absolutely obnoxious and something that really should be addressed, which is why I thought, okay, this is the reason I have got it, because I need to turn my karma into my mission. And so, which is why I started posting with hashtags early breast cancer detection and awareness. Again, I think we all as human beings are capable of adding value in whatever situation we are. We really, really need to give significance to our lives. We really need to know that each one of us, we are 95 people out here, lovely people, 95 of us have a unique mission. 95 of us have something to add to a situation, whether that's a challenging situation or otherwise. We all have an inherent potential to add value, and that's what we are meant to do. We are meant to add value, to lead mission oriented lives. And with that sense of purpose, I really I took up and I shared with everybody. So that's my takeaway from my breast cancer journey, that each one of us can turn our karma into our mission, and each one of us can become happy, only if you determine to become happy. So yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful and straight from the heart. When I was reading this part about you rejoicing about your one breast growing in size, I actually imagined it exactly the way you said it out loud. And I could just, the only thing which came into my mind was, oh wow, that must have been, you must have written it straight from the heart, because you're just speaking it how the reader read it. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you, Aarti.
So, Tahira, now that we've discussed some serious topics, I wanted to touch upon some of my favorite snippets from the book, which
Okay.
were the days leading up to the wedding and all the mayhem around it. I think you penned the details so hilariously. They felt so real. I almost felt like I was a part of your wedding. So, how did your family react to these nuggets when they read it in the book?
Yeah, now they all zip up. Whenever I enter a living room, they like zip up. They're like, we're not talking, we're not giving you material. Whatever we write, whatever we say, you just make it to your write things about it. So I guess as much as people have enjoyed and loved it, it has given a lot of anxiety, pangs, and palpitations to my family members. My father refuses to go beyond the second chapter. He's like, "Mainu nahi pata, main nahi jana. Jo kitta kitta hai." So in chaste Punjabi, he was like, "I don't want to know more about your life." My mother has enjoyed it, but now she's very careful about what she speaks. But yeah, I have sent a couple of, and with my in-laws, I have genuinely, I am not lying. The first time my father-in-law was like, "Where is the where is the book?" I was like, "Oh, the stock has finished, don't you know?" So like after 10 days, he's like, "Sorry, I actually did that recently." And so after 10 days, he's like, "Abhi tak aayi nahi book." And I had 80 lying at home. 80 lying at home. I was like, "No, I'll get it next week. Huh? The fresh stock is coming." The third time he asked, I actually made my husband lie. They tell him that it's not there. The fourth time I could not avoid, I actually took the book. And then after the first chapter, he was like, "Oh, we have read the first chapter. It's hilarious. It's funny." But I didn't want him to read what my mother-in-law gifted, and anybody who wants to know about what that is, you have to read the book. So I didn't want him to go through that part, and so I made my sister-in-law sneak the book from that house. So till date they don't have a physical copy. I'm sure they can order, but I'm just being stupid about it. But yeah, that's what I was happening, because I'm living with the same people about whom I've written. So yes, I've been stupidly courageous about writing. But yeah.
That's hilarious. No, you've penned them down amazingly well.
Brilliant. Tyra, my next question to you is, you've done theater, you've authored books, you've directed 2 short films, Toffee and Pinny. And by the way, like very, very interesting names, I must say. We would like to know, what does success mean to you? What type of movies or books do you wish to make or write in the future? Do you see yourself venturing into the bold genre of films similar to what your husband Ayushmann does?
I really wish I first of all, to begin with, I need to graduate from my obsession with food, like Pinny, Toffee. I don't know. I really need to get out of the zone to actually make meaningful cinema now. No, but everybody has their own journey, and I don't think it's correct to compare anybody's journey with anybody. And there's so many genres, and I can still go ahead and create my own genre. That's the kind of potential that we all have. I do want to make films, and the only thing that I know is I'm obsessed with women. I love women. And I really wish to write more stories about them, because just going by the fact that there's so little written about them. the patriarchal society that we are in, it just the kind of movies or the kind of scripts or the kind of books that also do come, there's very little representation about women and by women to begin with. So if you go into the industry, there's less than 6% of female directors who made films between 2016 and 2019, and I'm talking about about the Indian film industry. So that's a very sad number. 6% is nothing. It's negligible in 4 years. That goes on to show the kind of stories that are coming. And then whatever stories are coming, they quickly spiral into becoming stereotype because itna hi likha ja raha hai. So either you have, like, revolutionaries, and or then either you have tragic queens. So I mean, so we can be all of that, and we can be so much more. There's so much to us, to our lives, such interesting anecdotes and fun and humorous side to us as well. So I want to explore, I want to write more and more, and I want to film, and I want to make films around women. And of course, men will have a place too, but yeah, women, it is for me right now.
Lovely. Just like you love women, we all women love you and your writing. And we're really, really looking forward to all those books and movies you make and write.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Tahira, going off of the vibe of your recently written article in Times of India, do you want to be a part of the rare breed of fabulous Bollywood wives? Do you think you can relate to it at all?
That's a tricky one. But you've read my thoughts about it. So I feel, these women are very, very courageous, and they're very strong spirited, and there is no guilt about it at all, and they own it, and which is so amazing. And so when I started writing my article, I was also like, I had just finished watching the series, and I was like, wow, Bollywood wives. Why I didn't know about this club that existed, and it does. In fact, a series has been made around it. So I was like making criteria, like, do I make it to this list? Do I make it to this club? And yeah, I realized that it's very tough for me to. I don't think I meet the criteria. I mean to say, just going by something that I'd written very small from there was, they were planning about a trip to go to Doha while they were in Paris. And yet again, they had a night out to discuss the same, which is absolutely, I'm not looking down upon that, but there's a lot of organization which goes into it. And whereas me, when it comes to my organizational skills, they are pathetic. I manage, and that's true, I managed to drop my kids 7 o'clock in the morning after having fed them breakfast, getting them ready on a public holiday to school in the uniforms. And my kids hated me for doing that. And if that wasn't enough, then when I was my son, my first child, when he was a few months old, and I was a new mom, and I was going crazy. I had one of those normal lunches with my friends, and I took my son in his pram, and he was sleeping throughout the lunch. And I had a lovely conversation where I felt very normal after a very long time. And so we headed to the elevator after paying the bill, and the waiter came running, which is a true incident. And he was like, "Ma'am, you have forgotten your child." And I felt so terrible. Like, people forget to pay bills, or they forget to carry their handbag. Sadly, I had forgotten my child, and I'd carried my handbag. So I felt pathetic, and that's the kind of organization and planning that I had in my life. So yeah, answering your question, I don't think I meet the criteria. But having said that, I had thoroughly enjoyed the series, and I feel to each his own. The idea is to be unapologetic about who you are, and who is anybody to give tags. And if they're okay with this, then awesome. But I would stick to being a writer, an author, and a filmmaker. I think that's more for me.
Thanks. You just humanized these fabulous lives. You humanized it.
Yeah.
Super. Tyra, we can go on and on, Chandrika and myself, but I think we have a lot of questions from the audience as well. But before that, I want to ask you one last question and a quick rapid fire. So my last question to you, you laid down a lot of anecdotes, but did any of these anecdotes fall prey to at the editor's guillotine? Like, can we be privy to a few commandments or stories that didn't make the cut?
But what if they make it to the second book? So I'm going to save it. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll wait for the second book, right? Okay, let's start with a quick rapid fire. So
Sure.
we'll open the floor to the audience. And our first question is from.
No, Chandrika, we'll start with the rapid fire and then we'll.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So super. Tyra, your favorite author,
LF Shafak.
your childhood idol,
Ricky Martin. I don't know why did I say that, but yeah. Okay.
iconic film,
I'll hold me guilty, but yeah, I love Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
I like it too.
I love it.
An actor you would like to direct,
There's so many of them, but Alia.
nice. One book you would recommend,
Read long time back, but there are many. But there's the book called Timekeeper by Mitch Albom. It's a sweet one.
nice, good recommendation. Tahira Kashyap, the author or the director?
Both, yeah, but I like to write everything. So yeah, I like to write my scripts too. So
Super.
yeah.
The author. Your favorite workout regime?
Right now, the only workout that I'm having is in my head only. I just assume itni thanda, I just don't feel like getting out. And you can see the lovely cheeks that I have developed in this in the winter. So there's no workout happening. But yes, I do go cycling. And I plug in some really nice music. And so I don't kill myself over it, but I do get some sort of a physical workout. So cycling it is nowadays for me.
Super. And you look absolutely radiant. You know? My last one is a bonus commandment to all of us, trying to be perfect women.
Oh, so you want me to give a commandment?
Yeah.
That commandment would be probably taking a leaf from what Chandrika said. Have your own commandments. She gave a 14th one. I think each one of us can have our own commandments. And who am I to say 12 commandments? Some of us can have hundreds of them, and some of us can have 2 or 4 or 10. My only thing is have your own commandments and own it with pride.
Brilliant. I think we'll take some questions from the audience now, Tyra.
Sure.
So we'll open the floor, and our first question is from Ronita Modi. The floor is yours.
Hi, Tyra.
Hi, Ronita.
Hi. What emancipating thoughts. More so because you were not born with the strength, but you kept on rolling with the tide and did not let the stone gather any moss. You kept on evolving and becoming glossier, I think, every day. Life seems to be a work in progress. I wanted to ask you, Gloria Steinem had once said, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. But obviously you were strong enough and it did not even piss you off, while it did set you free. Bravo. Now tell me something, once a woman has battled cancer, her steroid-riddled body and 40 pounds heavier waddle, and a probable, and in your case, a certain loss of body part, all these are vindicated and looks enchanting to the onlookers. The same people who berate the less than perfect appearance of a woman comes to terms with all these undulations overnight. Why does a woman have to go through health hazards always to justify herself? When do you think we will learn to accept women with all her cosmetic ambivalences and her flaws without any preamble? Do you think the time has come?
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure maybe for the majority it takes a health hazard to sort of start valuing your own self. But in my case, it was a mental hazard. So I actually dealt with my depression, and that was more of a struggle to fight. And that's when I did that. I sort of started valuing myself. It all started with me in the head, and I think that's with most of us. And I don't. It's like also I've heard a very wise saying that it's always good to learn from other people's experiences rather than going through your own. So if at all we have that sort of an awareness, I think let's just start learning from other people's experiences. If you're talking about it, talking to own yourself, I mean to say to value yourself, please try doing that. There is no point being harsh on yourself. There's no point putting yourself in a mold which has been created for other people, and bodily or mentally you don't fit into that. You create your own mold. who's stopping you from doing that. I think the more we listen to such people, the more we can probably deal with the situation without really having to experience it. But having said that, experiences is also something that makes us grow and evolve. So in case you have faced a challenge, I think the perspective is to learn. And yeah, at times health hazards is what leads you to sort of have this sort of an epiphany about life. Okay, this is what I'm meant for. As long as you learn, as long as you're in a constructive way, as long as you're not onto the path of self-destruction, whatever leads you to that, and it's always good to learn from other people's experience. So yeah,
I was
think
asking actually other people's, the way other people hold you, like women, their imperfections and all, people judge. But when you battle cancer or something, you come out of it, then everything is
right.
accepted. I want to ask you, why do women always, women more than men, have to justify every act of theirs? Why?
Uh,
When will it change? What do you
but
think?
but Ronita, I really feel it stems from what we think about ourselves.
Correct.
We and our environment are one. Our
Yeah.
environment is the reflection of our internal chaos. And so if I'm feeling really shitty about myself, my environment is going to make sure that I feel double shitty about myself. It's going to keep throwing those messages. Those kind of people are going to enter your environment, which keep on reiterating the fact that, oh, you're not beautiful, or you, oh my God, actor ki biwi इतनी मोटी, इतनी पतली, इतनी काली, इतनी सफेद, मतलब कि whatever, such things do happen. But that's because you're feeling and you're inviting all of this into your environment. The thing is, you can't change the world. You have to change yourself.
You
The
know
way
that
you
you
make
know
yourself.
yourself, that needs a lot of strength and resilience. Everybody
Yeah.
is not, made out of
No,
that
no,
metal,
no,
right?
no. The thing is, I was on this end of the spectrum where I always thought that, what are these people? I used to avoid going for evenings out. Because I was so self-conscious, because I didn't have a 24 waist, and this is after Chandrika told me that I was the fittest in the class according to her, and yet I did not feel
But you
fit
have the
enough.
height in spite of that. Just imagine that.
Boy, now, so that's what we need. We need to figure out
Exactly.
the things that are going inside our head. We need to fix that. We need to feel beautiful and value ourselves or what we are. The day we start doing that, our environment is going to keep throwing those kind of messages, and those kind of people will enter your environment. You will invite happiness. You will invite people who don't judge you, and even if they do, because your life state is so high, you're feeling so good about yourself, you will
It
be
will be
able to
water
change
off a duck's
their opinion.
back.
Yeah,
Right.
you'll be able to change their opinion about you. The idea is to change and fix yourself, and things will turn around themselves for you. Yeah.
Thank
Correct.
you. Thanks, Tahira. I'll quickly move on to the next question from Kanika Ved.
Hi, Tahira, it
Hi.
is truly motivating listening to you.
Oh,
And
thank
I believe that we at Flow and you, Tahira, have the same belief: empower oneself, empower others.
you. Right, right.
So, my
Thank you.
question to you is, Tahira, we have often heard that you have perfectly played the role of a wife and supporting in Ayushman's career. Has he ever been that supportive to your professional career as an author or a director?
More than me, he has been supportive. Yeah. I mean to say, the fact that I have learned passion. I have learned commitment by seeing him, and he's always encouraged me to. And I'm not just speaking because it's supposed to be politically correct, but that's how it is, and that's how it's always been ever since college. We have been competing with each other, whether that was in theater or whether it was opening my own company. Like I never felt the need to, how in typical sense, Indian patriarchal sense, you seek permission from your partner. Whatever I've done, I've told him.
Yeah.
I never felt the need to validate my choices based on his opinion, and that's also because that's the kind of comfort level we
Yeah.
have with each other. So I have taken the decisions, even those decisions that have taken me down, but that's my journey and I own it up. And I completely give him credit for letting me live my life, going through hell, heaven, whatever, but it has been my journey. And yeah, he more than me. There are times I feel demotivated, and he encourages me that, and today, whatever I write, whether that's the book or an article or the scripts that I've written, he's the first person who gets to read it. So I'm very glad and fortunate to have a partner we have a big congruent area when it comes to our interests, and we do support each other. So yeah,
Fabulous.
Alright.
thank you.
Okay, and the next question is from Pooja Gupta. Can we? You have the floor, Pooja. Yeah.
Maybe move on to the next one.
Right. So we'll move on to Ritu Sabal for the next question. I'm gonna have to ask you to unmute. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is it fine? Can you hear me? Hi, Tyra. Can
Hi,
you hear
Ritu.
me? Hi.
Yes.
It was lovely hearing you, Tyra. You're amazing, awesome. So much to learn from you. And you're so cool.
So sweet.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, so I would like to ask you that we all read that you were not too happy with Ayushman's on-screen kiss in Vicky Dona. But now you've come a full circle to giving him suggestion on his intimate scene in Andhadhun. So how did this change came about?
बताओ कलयुग 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 बीवी बता रही है हस्बैंड को ऐसे किस करो ऐसे ना किस करो no, so yeah, man, I think that was what was lacking was my own self growth. I did not even though I was associated with art, even though I was associated with theater and acting, somehow it stopped short of understanding the medium when it came to my husband. And that's a very selfish way of living life. And so it took me time to understand, again, like I said, that the screw ups are in our heads. So we need to fix that. And then the environment again just throws, you think good things happen to you. You try to evolve, the environment helps you evolve. So I did in the couple of years try to, and I fought with this for the longest time. I did not appreciate it at all. But yeah, I have learned and to appreciate his acting skills more than anything. He's an actor. He's
He's a
an
good
husband,
actor.
a
He's
father, he's
amazing.
an actor. And we are in 2020. You don't expect two flowers to come from left and right and come and then meet and then I need to give him the space for him to do his thing. Like, and so would I expect him to give me my space if I want to direct or do something. I would not want anybody, no inhibitions. Art is such a
True.
medium. You should be allowed to express yourself. And there's yeah, I have come full circle again, courtesy of the lovely practice, which has told me to have a lot of compassion, a lot of appreciation and respect and dignity for people who are in your environment, even outside your environment.
So true.
So yeah, I've learned
Mm.
to value people. Mhm.
Too good.
And
Thank you
it's
for your answer. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you. You're amazing.
So sweet. Thank you.
So we'll just wind up the question answer with one last question from Anjali Agarwal. If you
Sure.
could mute yourself.
Tyra, I sincerely compliment you for churning out an insightful memoir. It really resonates with our kind of humor. True.
Thank you. Thank you, Anjali. I'm just so glad so many women read my book. Yay!
Yeah. I have a confession to make. I picked up your book on a friend's recommendation 2 weeks
That's
back.
lovely.
And only halfway through the book did I Google and found out that my boy, the boy, was Ayushman.
Wow, that's so cool.
So I really want to know. I mean, seriously, I want to really know. Do you feel eclipsed sometimes? Has it been an enormous task to come out of the shadow of a celebrity husband?
Yeah, true. That's a very valid and the politically correct way to go about it is, of course, not. But
There you go.
but honestly, in the beginning, you do feel at times, even in get-togethers or family get-togethers or friends, you see little people being gravitated towards a certain person, and they don't ignore you, but you can see the preference. And when you see that, you just go into your shell, more into your shell. And this is me before 4 years back. So, which is why, yes, I did feel a little intimidated, not with him as a person, but with him in an environment with people. And I would sort of feel eclipsed at, if that's what you want to say. Yeah, at a few moments I did. But the day I started rejoicing the result of his hard work, the day I started really taking pride in how much he's worked hard to gain all of that, I started enjoying all the attention he got. And I am so full of gratitude for all that he gets, all the love that he gets. And I think that's when a turn of events also happened, when my heart changed. I started receiving a lot of love too. Today I'm getting so much of love from you all, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I think it's, again, like I said before, a shift in our own heart, in our own mind. That shift has to come within us, and the
That's it.
environment just responds. So, yeah.
That's such a beautiful, soulful answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anjali.
Thank you. So that winds up our audience question answer round. We're behind schedule. So
I think we have Pooja here in case she wants to ask the question again. She had some connectivity issue. Pooja, are you there?
Yeah, I am there.
great, great. Please go ahead.
Hi, Tyra.
Hello, Pooja.
How are you?
I'm
And
good,
it's
and I love
been such an inspiring talk today. And I was like, all charged up hearing your positivity and body positivity you've been talking about. It has been actually so commendable the way you have written in the book and the way you've spoken today. It's full of positivity and full of energy.
Thank
So-
you, thank you.
So my question is that you lay yourself bare where social media is concerned, where your book is concerned. So how does your family deals with your being so vocal about, everything, and especially about cancer on Instagram and on social media platforms?
Oh yeah, so I think I answered that a bit back, that yes, I do
Yeah,
give them
you did.
palpitations. But yeah, so every part of my journey, yeah, my parents were, even for the cancer bit, my mom said, okay, fine, you've announced the whole world you're going through this. Now don't please show your I had plans to go bald. So she's like,
Yeah.
don't you dare do that. And I had my wig already prepared, just because I also never knew how I'm going to take it. But and the day I shaved my head off, my mom got to know through social media, and she was like, I don't want to see you like. It's not that she didn't like me seeing that. It's, for a parent, it's very difficult. I understand from a mother's heart.
It must have been so depressing for her.
But I didn't make it depressing at all, because the moment she kept on the phone, I FaceTimed her, and I was like, there's no escaping me. This is how I look, and I look damn hot. And
And you definitely look very, very hot.
Thank you.
With or
So
without hair, you definitely look really hot.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think I didn't give her an option to feel low or feel depressed about it. But yeah, I have my family, of
And
course.
how do kids react to it, Tyra?
The kids were confused, because it was something that in the secular sense, people, when they're talking in the play area, it's something tragic. But when they come home, mom is bouncing around with her bald head. So they they were confused ke, "Wah, माँ ठीक है हमारी कि नहीं है?" So I think they really feed off from the energy that you emanate. So I think my kids know that something has happened.
Definitely. You are truly an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much.
You're actually an inspiration to all of us, Tyra. The way you have taken it's so positively. It's actually amazing to see you.
Thank you, big
Thank
hug.
you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Tyra, I know we're like overshooting the time, but there are a couple of chat questions, and the members are asking if you can answer them. Can I quickly go over it?
Quickly do this. Yes.
Okay. So Sheetal wants to know, what are your weakest moments today after being so resilient and strong and facing your karma, like you put it?
it's the same things that I've battled before. These things don't leave you. Your self-doubt, your all these low life states, they're always there within you. On a bad day, they come surging up. On a good day, you beat them. So I still have the same issues, but it's work in progress. And for as long as you human beings, it's going to be work in progress for all of us. So yeah.
Super. Urvika would like to know, what do you wish for your children, especially in these uncertain times we're all living in? What are those 3 things you never want your kids to lose or forget?
To be happy. I want them to be happy always. Two, I want them to know that they are very significant. Whatever choices they make in life, whatever they do in life, they are very significant. And third, I want them always to value people and have dignity for life. Humanity, compassion is something that I would want to teach them, and they should know.
Brilliant. What lovely messages, for your children. I have a question from Pragya, and she's asking, what's the biggest lesson you've learned in life so far?
That biggest lesson that I've learned is that you're going to keep learning lessons for the rest of your life.
How that you put it.
Yeah, and you better be okay with it, because life is never going to be smooth. It's going to be in phases. They're going to be good phases. So don't lose the plot when you're in a good phase. Be humble. In a bad phase, don't feel crushed and undefeated, because that too shall get over. So yeah.
Super. And Deepika wants to ask, any spiritual practices you follow, you can tell us about. Like, if
Yeah, I follow Nichiren's Buddhism, like I said. So this philosophy you can check out. It's called Nichiren's Buddhism. SGI is you can just search online. SGI is the name of the organization. That's Soka Gakkai International. You'll get to know more about it. I think any philosophy that centers you, that empowers you. It doesn't take away the power from you and put it onto other people or other organizations. It tells you that you're the most powerful person in your own life, which is true. I think that's the one philosophy that one should go for. Something that worked for me was Nichiren's Buddhism. So yeah.
Super, super. I think thank you so much for those extra couple of minutes. You answered everyone's questions and made everyone
lovely. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. This was a wonderful session. Thank you for having me over.
We have Tyra. Go ahead, Chandrika.
Thanks, Tyra. We'll wind up the question answer round now. And I would like to request chapter chairperson to give out the green certificate to Tahira.
Can I request the IT team to please put it up? Tyra, we at Flow Kanpur believe in honoring our guests by planting a tree in your name, and these trees have been planted for the Ganga in the state of Bihar. And you can locate your tree. We'll send you this small memento and the tree to your Chandigarh or Mumbai address, wherever you prefer. You can track down the tree with the certificate number mentioned below, and you can fondly remember us as you see it grow.
Lovely. That's such a lovely thought. I will. Thank you so much.
Can I just request Kanika to give the vote of thanks, please?
Good evening, friends. My heartfelt thanks to Tahira Kashyap Khurana for being with us and sharing with us quirky and relatable anecdotes about breaking the stigma around the mental health, about body image, your new look after cancer, your dislikes on the body career, to self-acceptance, self-love. Your positive vibe totally nailed it all, Tahira. We are indeed privileged to be a part of such an invigorating talk. I would like to thank Dr. Aarti Gupta, Chairperson Flow Kanpur, for roping in Tahira for this wonderful event. I would also like to thank our event chair, Chandrika Jhunjhunwala, for coordinating this entire webinar. Heartfelt gratitude to Speakin for all their help. I would like to thank my sponsors, Lohia Corp, Balencia Socks, and RD Knox for their constant support. Thank you, members from Pan India, for joining us for this unfiltered session. Thank you. Stay safe. Thank you, Tahira.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you. Have a lovely year ahead, and be happy. See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Super. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If I can just request the team to stay back.
At your mute.